is Lisa Bain. Welcome to Treasure Talks. I would love for you to take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the doorbell so you get notifications about our new videos and content. It has been a joy to meet some incredible heroes over the years through my nonprofit work. Our community is filled with heroes who have such incredible and miraculous stories. These stories need to be heard. These heroes have found treasure in the darkest days of their lives, and they are using it to help others and bring hope to those in our community. Every month, we will spotlight a new story as you meet these community heroes and we chat one-on-one. So stay tuned and be ready to be encouraged and inspired by these community treasures. It's time for Treasure Talks. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Treasure Talks. Okay, this is a monumental day today because look who's right here. It's my friend and my favorite. Yeah, my favorite.
Oh wow, so honored.
Andy Chrisman.
I wondered why I was here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about today's show. Okay, everyone knows Andy Chrisman from For Him, and I want to tell you, I know you guys already know this, but I'm going to introduce Andy.
Okay.
Andy is a renowned figure in the Christian music world with a career spanning over 3 decades as the founding member of the iconic group For Him. Andy contributed to 25 to 30 number one songs and performed in over about 5,000 concerts, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, these numbers are pretty close.
Okay, if I get them
we
wrong.
can go back to them in a minute if you want,
right.
but just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since 2006, Andy has transitioned to leading worship and mentoring worship leaders. He's been a key figure at Church on the Move in Tulsa for over 16 years and now travels extensively coaching churches on worship leadership. Andy also hosts a popular radio show, Worship with Andy Chrisman, reaching 5 to 7 million listeners across 13 countries every weekend. And you have an amazing podcast, which I am a subscriber to. I love it. I love it. 1 Degree of Andy. With your rich musical background and deep spiritual roots, Andy continues to inspire and guide others into the art of worship. You live in Tulsa.
I do.
With Lucas and Kaylee, your kids, and your beautiful wife, Jackie.
Yes.
And, okay, I actually had some friends say, ask him this question, ask him this question. I'm like, okay, I've got my list. But first of all, I want to know, how did you start your career in music? When did this all start?
Okay, so I want to go back and correct a few numbers here.
Correct my numbers.
Not maybe correct. Okay, so when you say 25 to 30 number one songs, you're like, how do you not know how many number one songs you had? Well, there were like 5 or 6 different charts back in the day, back in the 90s in Christian music. And so not all of them were official. So we had songs that we know went number one on AC radio, Adult Contemporary Christian Radio, which was kind of the big dog of the reporting. And we know for sure we had 25 number one songs on that reporting chart. But then there are other charts like inspirational worship, soft contemporary. There were some charts that kind of came and went. CHR, which was a little more Christian rock kind of stuff, which For Him never quite got on, but had a couple songs that reached there. So we don't quite know. We know for sure we had 25. We think it's more like 27. It could be as high as 30. So
well, you guys were my favorite.
Oh.
Favorite, hands. You looked at my playlist. I showed him my playlist, and they're on more than any other group. So okay.
The other number is I have actually been at Church on the Move for 20 years.
Oh, 20.
Yeah, it'll be 20 years next summer,
okay,
so 19 years. And
you're still there too, right?
Still there. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but everything else looks. Yeah, that was.
Did I get it close?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yay. Okay, how did this all begin?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I've always been a musician. I mean, I think that if you want to go all the way back, the earliest stories that my family told about me, I'm the youngest of 3 boys by a long shot. Like my middle brother is 10 years older than me, and my oldest brother is 13 years older than me. And when I came along, I was that oops baby in the 60s. And my brothers, they used to tell me they would use me to get girls to notice them, right? So when I was 3 and 4 years old, I would sing, and they would take me to basketball games or go to pep rallies or whatever, and they would carry me along, like
That's hilarious.
right, this little magnet for the girls, and I would sing for them. So that's kind of the earliest stories that I know about me singing. And then I just always sang. Like, there was something about, my mom got me in piano lessons when I was 5, and I played trumpet all through middle school and high school, and I was just always given opportunities to sing. I had a really strong voice.
It just was a gift. You just had the gift.
Well, I just had the gift. Yeah, I realize that now. It was a gift that God gave me. It's something He created me to do. And there was always opportunities to sing at school and in musicals and in plays. And in fact, you mentioned my podcast. As we're recording this, Paul Smith is on.
I'm halfway through it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So he's a former member of the Imperials, but he's a big vocal hero of mine. During the interview, and I've still got to go check this out, we might have been on in an opera together at Baylor, because I won an audition to play a kid part in an opera when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and that was about the same time he was at Baylor and doing operas and stuff there. So there's a pretty good chance that we've crossed paths. So yeah, I was just singing all the time, and then I don't know, growing up in Waco at the time, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for a musician to make a living, right? There wasn't anybody I could follow their footsteps and go, oh, well, this person did this, and this that I know and had success. I didn't have that to follow. So I just went on to college to do what I was good at in school, which was math and English.
Where'd you go to school?
Sciences.
Did you stay in Waco?
No, I did not. Well, growing up in Waco, born and raised, I didn't want to spend another 4 years in Waco going to college. So I went to Oklahoma State.
OSU.
Yeah. They had a good engineering program. My brother was in Stillwater. He was a worship pastor at a church there. I was like, okay, well, that's the best of both worlds. I could go far enough away from home, 6 hours away from Waco, where I couldn't come back every weekend, but also had family in town in case I needed anything. And, it was a, small town, good college experience. But sure enough, I got there, and they started putting me on stage at the church to sing, and I got in some bands, and just kind of continued to follow the musical doors that were opening for me.
Yeah.
And finally, I was kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, God, I don't know what to do here. I mean, school is not interesting me at all. I don't see myself working a 9 to 5 with the degree I'm about to get. Hey, look, God, it was literally one of those desperate prayers of like, God, if you want to use me, use me. I don't care. Just do something. And I'll never forget. It was like 2 weeks after praying that prayer in earnest that my phone rang in my apartment in 1986, maybe. Wow. And it was Roger Breland of Truth.
Roger Breland.
And he had gotten my number from somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. And he called me and said, hey, I heard you could sing. I know your brother. Why don't you come audition for me? We're about to lose one of our tenors. So that was how my career started. I just was like, okay. I called my dad, and I was really worried because I knew he and my mom wanted me to get my degree. They had never really pushed me towards music. There had never been anything, talked about, hey, you should go after a music degree, or you should go be an artist. So I was terrified to call him and say, hey, Dad, I'd like to leave school early and go on the road. And I'll never forget, I still say this today, and I say it to people that I coach. He said, son, don't give yourself the chance to say what if. Go do it. Just go do it. Go experience it.
Best.
He's like, you're 20 years old. Go do it. We'll take care of everything here. And if it doesn't work out, come back to school, finish your degree. But don't give yourself the chance.
Thank God for supportive parents.
Yeah, exactly. And, he could have said no, and I would have understood because he was paying for my education. And,
right.
I
bet he's so proud of you. Is he still here?
No, he passed in 2008.
I bet he was proud of his boy.
He was proud. I will tell you this. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. One of my favorite memories of my dad was when For Him would have a new record out. We just finished a new record. And, of course, before it would hit the stores, I would have copies of the new mixes. And I would make a trip to Waco to play it for him because I wanted to play it for him in person. And he would do this during every song. like he was some sort of critic, an expert.
He's just soaking it in.
And he'd go, "That's a good one." And then play the next one, and he'd go, "I wouldn't have recorded that one."
I love that.
And here's the thing that happened though, he loved what we did so much that he would buy, I gave him, because, we would buy product for when we toured. So we'd have, we'd have hundreds of boxes of CDs that we would sell on tour. And I would take 4 or 5 boxes and give them to him out of our supply. And he would keep them in his truck. And that was his witnessing tool, is he would start sharing Jesus with someone and said, "Now here's some music." And he would give them a For Him CD. And that was like one of the, he'd give them McDonald's, remember McDonald's bucks?
Oh, yeah.
Remember McDonald's money?
Yep.
He would give them McDonald's money and a For Him CD. And that's how he witnessed to people.
That is the neatest thing. Thank God for the legacy of godly parents that support. I love that story. Okay, so tell me how you started in For Him. Wasn't there a truth? What do you call it's the boot camp?
Yeah. Don't let Roger Reeland hear that.
Okay, we didn't say it, Roger.
He didn't. Well, I've had Roger on my podcast, and we've talked about this.
He's so cool.
He's awesome. But yeah, Truth was a group that is not around anymore, which is.
We sang all their songs in music ministries.
Well, and it's kind of sad because Truth was a real training ground for serious Christian musicians, and there's just not that anymore. I mean, about the only place you can train to be a Christian musician is in church, which is not a bad thing. But what Truth was a group of younger musicians, usually college age. He wouldn't let you come on the road unless you had a couple years of college, which means you're not just coming from mom and dad's house and jumping on a tour bus. You had a little bit of self-survival instinct if you could manage a couple years in college. And so it was a group typically comprised of 4 male singers, 4 female singers, 4 rhythm players, and 4 horn players. And then sound man, bus driver, lighting tech, and then just some random people that would be on the road. So anywhere from 25 to 30 people that would travel together on a bus and a tractor trailer and like a custom van that would follow behind, And we did more than 300 shows a year, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I remember seeing
we either
them.
did 300 to 500 shows a year.
I mean, you guys were like cranking it.
Yeah. So you knew. I mean, talk about a place where you could train to be a full-time musician. That was where you wanted to go. It was a hard gig to get into because everybody wanted it. Michael W. Smith wanted to get in, but he was too young. Roger wouldn't let him in. Sandy Patty wanted in.
Really?
And didn't get in. Man, there's this whole list of names. It's funny. It's so many people that I have on the podcast from that era of Christian music. They all have a Truth story. They either auditioned for Truth. Michael O'Brien.
What about Twyla Paris?
Twyla already had her thing.
She had her thing going.
But Michael O'Brien, we were talking to him before we started rolling. Michael auditioned for Truth the same time I did.
Wow.
And Roger hired me and not Michael. And we laughed about that going, what if the reverse had happened? He would have been in For Him. And I have no idea where I would have been.
That is so wild. See, I had every Truth album because I got to tell you, I was looking at the dates it was about 13 years old that I was to about 22. All of the great CCM, all of the songs, and
it was a great era for music.
And I don't want to jump ahead because I'm Lisa. Don't jump ahead. Okay, so. I'm
not helping things.
Well, I could just jump all over the place. I just have so much I want to ask you. Okay, so your Truth days led you to For Him. Didn't the guys sing in Truth?
So that's where I met the other guys. So For Him's made up, obviously, of 4 guys. And so I got in the group in February of 97. So think about doing anywhere from 300 to 400 shows a year, right? The turnover rate is pretty high. It's just not something you can sustain.
Right.
For
how long were you doing it?
I did it for 3.5 years.
Wow.
So I started in February of 87, and then we left the road as For Him in August of 90.
Wow.
So, and they didn't pay much at all.
Okay.
I made $20 a week. singing with Truth. Well, because travel was covered, meals were covered,
Okay. Wow.
clothing was pretty much covered.
Yeah.
And so really all it was just kind of like snack money, you know?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you could figure it out. Most of my money went towards my MCI card bill. Remember that? Remember MCI cards?
Wow.
That's how I
Yes.
stayed in touch with the outside world.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so the cycle of people coming through, the group was changing every few months with the with the different people that were coming through. And so when I got there in February of '87, Mark Harris had already been in the group for a few months, and then right after that, Marty McGehee joined the group. Maybe I think it was just a few months after I got there, and then Kirk Sullivan came in later that year of '87.
Okay.
He was, but Kirk had done a tour before. Like he'd been in several years earlier, gone on done some other things, and then we had a vocalist lead that had this leave the group that had this big gospel voice that kind of filled a niche for the group, and so they brought Kirk back in, and it wasn't long before we kind of developed a sound like the way when we would harmonize as the four guys.
Oh, so good.
There was something that happened that was really beautiful. And after the first year, the people in Nashville started taking notice. Like it started to get around that.
I mean, it just blew
hey,
up.
there's a special sound over here that's happening. They called us the Four Truth Guys. And that's how we were kind of known in Nashville at the time. And we started getting some attention for that. So, now fast forward, a few years of being together, we did 1,000 shows probably.
As for him?
As the Four Guys of Truth. Before we ever did a show.
Before you were for him.
Before we ever did
I did
for
not
him.
know that. I did not know that.
So, so it got to that point where we're all feeling, okay, we've been here a long time. We can't keep this pace up. It's not a life you want to live for a long duration. What's next? And so we just started to dream about, well, could we go on and break off as a group? And the record company that Truth was signed to offered us a deal. And, we're just like, let's just make the first record. Let's just see if the first record hits. And sure enough, Where There Is Faith was on that album.
Faith.
And
the
then
one
it was just
you
like,
sang.
yeah, it just took off from there.
It just blew up.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
But, going back to Truth, after For Him, so there were a bunch of people in Truth that made it big. Steve Green, there were...
Avalon? Wasn't Avalon?
Well, okay, so that was after us. So there was Steve Green and there were a couple other people in the 20 years prior to what we did, or maybe the 15 years prior to us being there. But after us, it felt like the doors swung wide open for people going, oh, well, if For Him can come out of Truth, well, maybe there's more there than the record companies were looking at. So, yes.
You were like groundbreaking.
So, Jana Potter, who ended up being Jana Long, who was one of the first Avalon members, Jody McBrayer, who was one of the first Avalon members, Natalie Grant was a part of Truth, Russ Lee, who would go on to be with New Song and still is with New Song. Those were people that came in after For Him. And
that's amazing.
And so then the bar was kind of set like, okay, this is possible with artists and singers in band members in For Him. I mean, look, I've got, again, depending on when this airs, I've got another episode of my podcast coming out with the Childers brothers, who people probably don't know their names, but Mark and Mike Childers. Mark and Mike were the drummer and bass player for Truth when we were there towards the end. And then we brought them on our Ride tour, and they were our bass player and drummer on the Ride tour and a couple of tours after that. And then Mark Childers now has been Carrie Underwood's bass player and band leader for 20 years.
That's amazing. Everyone is so connected. But don't you?
And that's just one example. That's just one
amazing.
Example of the musicians.
Everyone is so connected.
Yeah, that came through Truth.
So many great people. And I am going to jump ahead because one thing I love about your podcast, and I heard it mentioned on another interview or something, I love stories and I love legacies.
Yeah.
And we're losing so many of the greats and you're getting those stories and I'm just, I love it. I'll listen to some of them and I'll think, this is just really going to matter, and then we'll lose someone and I'm like, okay, name a highlight For Him. I know there's many, but if you had to just pick one of your big highlights of.
Yeah.
of
I
touring
don't know.
with
I'm
them?
just going to have to start pulling stuff out of the air as memories come back to me. I think, the success we had at the Dove Awards, I struggle with that sometimes. Like, should we be giving Christians awards? I mean, isn't that like crown of glory, later, or do you get recognized here? Like, well, that's your reward. But there's something
That's pretty
nice
darn special.
about it. Well, that first group of the year we won was pretty wild because, and we were up against Petra and DC Talk,
Yeah.
and there were some really big names, and we won that 3 years in a row, and those were always just like, I don't know. I think of Sally Field. You love us. You really like us. Those were surreal moments for us. I think our first song, Where There's Faith, going number one, that was wild because Truth, in its existence up to that point, had only had 2 number one songs their entire career,
And you guys
with
had
hundreds
so
and
many.
hundreds of songs that they had recorded, and ours was right out of the box.
Yep.
Was a big hit, and so just leaving Truth, not knowing we were walking into, and playing packed houses across the country it still boggles my mind. We were not prepared for it.
How do you keep yourself accountable spiritually?
It was hard.
I mean, you know what I mean? I know when we traveled for 3 months and you're stuck with those 10 people and you give and you give and you pour and you pour.
Yeah.
How do you do that? People are like, well, you're totally filled up. I'm like, no, you're not. You're totally giving, but how do you?
Well, it takes a village.
Yeah.
The good thing about For Him that we were always blessed, we always felt like we were blessed with, was there were 4 of us. There were 4 brothers that could call each other out and say, hey, you're being stupid right now. Or, dude, don't say that. Or don't, that's a bad attitude. That's hurting all of us. It's hurting yourself and it's hurting all of us. And we could, in a way, it didn't last forever, but we could pull each other back from the brink and just go, hey, let's talk about this. Being married, I think was a
Were
big.
you all married?
So 2 of us were. Mark was married. I was married. In fact, Mark and I married best friends. And
That's convenient.
That was very convenient, and that helped us too because we were all tight, And then Marty got married a little later. Kirk didn't get married until he was in his 50s, but our wives helped us, and then we all had kids pretty early.
Did they travel with you?
Up until we had kids, yeah. So our wives didn't want to bring the kids on the road.
Yeah.
And we were like, that's fine. I would like our kids to have more of a normal existence than living life out of a tour bus. They got to travel with us a bunch, but those are those things. And we all started to find churches. We started seeing the value in not booking Sunday concerts so that we could get home and be part of our churches on Sunday and having pastors. Then we put together an accountability board, in the early 90s that were comprised of just men that were very influential in our lives that could call us to be accountable for things and ask us why we were making certain decisions and helping us with our money. And,
that's great.
And our, the people that we were working with and aligning ourselves with. So that helped us as well. And, not everything was perfect and we had our issues.
Are you still close?
During those days.
Are you guys still close?
We
The
are.
4 of you?
We are. It's been really interesting because of the years that have passed and the things that we've all seen. I just spent a few days with Marty up in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the first time any one of the guys had been up to his school that he teaches at.
It's a teacher.
He's an educator. Well, he's more than a teacher. He's an educator at a really incredible private school in the Denver area. And he's got like a $30 million arts building that has everything. Has everything. Has a multi-million-dollar recording studio. And
oh my goodness.
It's got everything that you could think of if you wanted to be an art student. And he basically heads all of that.
Wow.
And he just, it was just great to spend a few days with him and just, talk about life and where we are and how, even there have been some turbulent waters between the 4 of us over the years, we can all kind of come back. It's funny, we've done a couple events over the last couple of years where we had to go in early and rehearse and, we would almost stay up all night in a hotel room and laugh and tell stories. And we were like, even if we never sing again, we should do this once a year. We should rent a place and the 4 of us, just the 4 of us, just show up and just hang out with each other.
I love
because
that.
there's a special bond. It's a very small club that can have these shared experiences and speak a language that only the four of us can speak.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's that bond that stayed. You mentioned people that had a big influence in your life. Name 3 of the people that, either mentors or pastors or founders, who really shaped you, and who are those people?
Well, Roger Breland's got to be the first one, because I didn't know nothing. I mean, I was this country boy from Waco, going to Oklahoma State.
I loved your accent, Andy. I pulled one up.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Oh my gosh! Please don't go back and look at old videos.
I won't pull it up. I'll spare you. It's the best.
Well, I had no style. I was showing up, and Truth was based in Mobile, Alabama, deep South, loafers, and I mean, it's funny. You see these. If you watch an Alabama or an Auburn football game, and you see the kids in the stands and the students, it's exactly what they looked like in the 80s.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed a bit. The haircuts and the loafers and the pressed jeans and the button-down polos, and that's what it was, and that's where most of the people came from that were in the group. They were from the deep South, and a lot of them were college educated. I wasn't. A couple years at being an engineering major, I came in with my stonewashed jeans, my ostrich skin boots, and T-shirts, and that was it, and a terrible haircut. And Roger really took me under his wing, and he shopped and bought me clothes and took me to a hairstylist, and taught me how to walk across a stage.
Wow.
Which was, I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to walk and sing. I didn't know how to communicate a song. I could sing really loud, but I didn't know how to communicate a song. So
you don't even think about that.
Yeah, he really taught me how to stand in front of an audience and make a difference. Then there was a guy named Gordon Miller. Gordon Twist. Gordon Miller's another great friend, but Gordon Twist was a former Truth member, and he was a vocal producer on Broadway, and they would bring him in to work with us during those years. And everything I know about vocal coaching and vocal resonance and performing, I learned from Gordon. Gordon was one of those guys where if you allowed him into your world, he was your biggest fan, and he was your toughest critic, and he would not let you off the hook. And I owe everything I am as a vocalist to Gordon Twist.
That's awesome.
And still lives in New York City. I still see him every once in a while. He's in his late 70s now, and
how is that awesome?
I try to honor him every chance that I get. And then a man that was really important to me that just passed away a year or so ago. His name's Michael Catt. And Michael was on our board of directors, our accountability board for him. But Michael was one of those guys I just knew early in the Truth days. He would host Truth and do, have him in his church.
Yeah.
And then he founded Sherwood Pictures. And if you don't know what Sherwood Pictures is, they're kind of the first company that really started making Christian movies. Facing the Giants.
Yeah.
And Fireproof.
Yeah.
And, I know there's a bunch more, but that was his church. He had some filmmakers in his church that wanted to make Christian movies, and their church financed them. And he basically became the CEO of Sherwood Pictures. And started what we know now as there's Christian movies everywhere, but they were the genesis of that. They were the real genesis of that. But he was always like a dad to us and for him.
That's so
He was
neat.
always the one that would call us, ask us how we were doing. He would show up unannounced at concerts on tour and just hang out with us. And he was one of those guys who would just walk. He was a huge man. He was probably, 6'5", and just a hulking individual. And he would come up with these massive hands and just grab your shoulders and start working your shoulders. And you're like, oh, Michael's here.
Oh, my goodness.
This is awesome. And he would just love on you, and he would speak the truth into your life.
So cool.
And he would hold you accountable. And,
those are the good people in your
there are
life.
very few men in my life who had that access. And so if you ask for 3 people that were mentors to me, that were really important to me, especially in the early years of my career, those are the 3 guys I could point to.
I love that. You've got so many great people. And I want to make sure we talk about your podcast. And you're on worldwide.
Sure.
I mean, you're on, you do the worship with Andy. And seriously, I am a subscriber and I can't wait to get his emails telling me who we're going to listen to. And I've listened to some of them like 3 times and I get, oh, that's a great nugget. I've got to pull that out. Tell them how that started and where they can find you and how they can subscribe.
So you mentioned the radio show. It kind of started from that. When I moved to Tulsa in 2005 to take over the worship pastor job at Church on the Move, within 6 or 7 months of being here. So if you know the Tulsa area, KXOJ.
Yep.
94.1.
94.1.
Was like the only radio station, Christian radio station in town. And I go way back with Bob Thornton that's worked there. And but Spirit 102.3 came into town around that same time I came to town. And it was Cox Communications' first Christian radio station, kind of as a test market.
Yes. Yeah.
And lo and behold, it grew the market. Like, none of us thought that would happen, but it actually grew the Christian listening market to where KXOJ and Spirit 102.3 had really big numbers in the Tulsa area. So they reached out to me and scheduled a lunch meeting with me. And they just said, hey, we would like some Sunday morning programming. And you're the worship pastor at one of the largest churches in town. We think that'd be a good fit, your name, And I'm like, I've been on this side of the mic giving interviews. I don't know what it's like being a DJ or interviewing people. And they're like, that's okay. We'll teach you. We'll give you people that'll help you figure all this out. You've got a studio. All you have to do is show up. We'll walk you through it. So I did that for about 2 years, and it was the #1 show on the weekends in Tulsa. Wow. So the word started getting out that this was a good show here in Tulsa. And there were other stations across the country saying, we'd like to have a version of that. Could you do a version for our station? So at one point, I was doing 3 different versions of the show every week.
Wow.
And it was a 4-hour show back then.
Oh,
so it was a lot of programming.
Oh, wow.
But I got access to everybody, all the artists that Spirit was bringing in, like Lincoln Brewster and Third Day and Phillips Craig and Dean and Nicole Nordeman, everybody that was coming through to do an interview on their radio station, they would transfer them over to my studio and say, now go sit down with Andy Chrisman for a little bit. So I learned how to interview people that way. And then I got a call. I don't know how much detail you want here, but I got a call. I was coming out of the dentist, and the station manager for Spirit called me and said, hey, you got a minute? And I'm like, sure, what's going on? He said, just got a call from corporate in Atlanta. They're going to switch our formats, and we're going to talk radio. I was like, oh, wow. And I'm thinking, probably going to do this in a few months. It's time to figure this out. I said, well, when's that going to happen? He goes, are you in your car? Turn on the station.
Oh,
I turned it over, and it turned over. It's like Sean Hannity. I'm like, wait. I'm like they already did it? He said, oh, yeah, they made the decision this morning in a meeting, said they literally flipped the switch. And he said, I had to go in and tell my morning DJs to stop prepping for tomorrow morning.
Oh,
he said
my
they flipped it like that. And he said, I'm very sorry, but, we're not going to be able to do your show anymore. I said, well, okay. I already knew I owned the show. They just let me have it.
Right.
I walked down the street to Bob Thornton and KXOJ and said, you want my show? He goes, bring it on over, bud. So since 2008, I've been on KXOJ every Sunday morning.
That is such a cool story.
Yeah. And then
your podcast.
Because I had, so I'm getting there. So then I've had a relationship with a syndicator, walked it over to him, and he said, yeah, we'll put it on my network. And within a couple of months, we had over 100 stations that were airing the show. So it became a syndicated station instead of just a Tulsa-only show.
So it's all over the place.
Okay. So then I thought, okay, I had like people like Wayne Watson had some worship music came out. Clay Cross had some worship music come out. Guys that I traveled with and knew as personal friends. Russ Taff had some new worship music come out. So I was talking to these guys going, now there's more here than just talking about worship. I love their stories. I wonder if I could have a second show that's like a rewind show for that. And I just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. I was like, it's a great idea, and I put it on the shelf. Well, when Carmen passed away in, when was this? Probably 2020, 2021.
It was around the pandemic.
Yeah. He passed away, And I was like, oh man, it would have been great to have Carmen on, to sit down with him and get his story before he passed. And then a couple other things happened. And then the Jesus Music movie came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is great, but it only highlights like a handful of people that talk about the history of the Jesus Music movement.
Right.
I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can. I was toying around with doing a podcast for the radio show. I was like, I don't know, let's just try it. So I talked to a couple of people who do podcasts for a living. They gave me some great tips, and 1 Degree of Andy was born.
1 Degree of Andy.
So I literally started, I'd gone down to Dallas. We talked about Greg and Jana Long earlier. Greg and Jana Long are worship pastors at a church in the Dallas area, and they invited me to come down and lead worship with them. And afterwards, they said, hey, we're working on a podcast for our church. Would you come in after the services and just sit down with us for 30, 40 minutes, and we'll ask you questions? I'm like, great. Well, it turned out I ended up interviewing them. And I was like, can I have this audio, please? And they're like, sure, take it. That was the first episode.
That was the first one.
Right.
Okay, so how many episodes have you done? You're over 50, aren't you?
No, we're up to about 80 right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we've got it. And then I've got a bunch already recorded.
Yeah.
So probably by the time this podcast airs, we'll be close to 100 episodes recorded.
I love it.
And ready to go.
Seriously need to subscribe. I enjoy it so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to it. And
Thanks.
we definitely cannot leave without talking about the Christmas show.
We're doing a Christmas show this
We're
year?
doing a Christmas show
Are
already?
we?
The Grady Nichols Christmas show benefiting Lisa Bain Ministries. And I have to tell you, I have a prayer board. And every year when this started, I would put, I want to be the charity for the Grady Nichols Christmas show. And we'd just say, okay, Lord, maybe I'm wrong. But last year, Grady called me, and of course, I was just overwhelmed because I love for him, and I've always just thought the world of you. And I thought, Grady's just like, he's just like family. And so it was such an answer to prayer. And I got to say, it has been a blast working with you on this whole thing.
Well, you have definitely taken it to another level.
Oh, no. Yeah,
we'd not be where we are with this show without you, Lisa.
Well, it has just been a joy. And I have to say, I have to tell this story.
Okay.
Because I always go back to this story on the days when I think, Lord, do you hear me? You know those seasons when God is quiet?
Yep.
Well, everyone knows, or most of you know, that I walked through a season, very, very painful season, becoming a single mom. I was in Dallas, Texas, and going through just horrific circumstances. And For Him was on my repeat. The Seasons of Love Christmas album.
Yep.
And In Your Care was the song that I would play over and over. And I'm saying over. And I remember being in like the fetal position in my closet, crying out to God, playing this song over and over. And it just brought me so much comfort. And I just thought, Lord, do you see the big picture? Do you hear me? And fast forward to now. And I don't know if you know this, but last year when we were getting ready, we were rehearsing, and you said, hey, Lisa, come up here, and if you want to sing or join, and I was singing with the choir, and I was up there singing, and you had sang In Your Care, and the Lord took me back, just like that, and said, when you were in the fetal positioning in your care, I saw you standing with Andy. Singing, and I take care of the puzzle pieces and put them all together. And I mean, it's like, when you talk about people that had such an amazing place, you're one of those people, Andy. And so and the group For Him, and so when Grady was asking me and we were talking about it, I was just like, God is so good. He's just so good. Because I consider you a dear friend now, and you just bless my heart. And this show this year is going to be so great. It's going to be so epic. We have opened up more seats.
I think it's going to be the best one we've done yet.
Best one yet. But you know what I love about, someone said, what's your favorite thing? Because this is really, we don't have any other events but this one. It takes all year to really plan. But the thing I love about it, and I tell everyone, it's so anointed. The people that I work with are genuine. They're the real deal. We pray about it. It's, the heart of the Lord is in it. And it's kind of like one thing that I loved about For Him. You always ended with an invitation.
We did.
You always led people to Jesus. And I love that because you're just so authentic.
Even in the weirdest places.
Yes,
we
you
gave an
always
invitation
did.
at a bass rodeo.
Yes.
Well, that's what we do, so let's do it.
So what's your take on the Christmas event? What's your plug for the Grady Nichols Christmas show?
Well, let me just say something about In Your Care. You know, the year before you joined us to partner with us on this event, I had told Grady, I'm like, that's the last time I'm doing In Your Care. I'm done. I think we've done it. I think we've played it out. And I remember him going, you might want to rethink that because that is Lisa's favorite song. And it is an impetus for this whole event. And I'm like, oh, well, if Lisa wants it, then I'll sing it again.
Well, you know, I told you the story. I had several people in the audience contact me and said, I was praying about a specific answer. We were seeking the Lord, and that song came on. They got a word from the Lord. It came right out to. I mean, it's just an anointed song, and nobody can sing it. Well, you're the one who sings it, so you're going to sing it again.
We're going to sing it again. We got lots of great songs. So here's the thing about the Christmas show: it's refreshing. I mean, it is a refreshing way, and we try to put it early enough in December so that it kind of gets to you before all the Christmas crush. The shopping and the decorating and the parties and the family.
And it's on a Tuesday night, so you can go.
So you can go on a Tuesday night. It doesn't conflict with anything else going on typically at church or any other types of things during the weekend. But it's a way for us to, I think, really allow the spirit of Christmas in us, which is the spirit of Christ. We're going to tell the story of what Christmas is all about, and that's Jesus come to earth as a baby to live a sinless life and save us from our sins. And to do it in a way that's beautiful, great musicians, great music. We're going to laugh. We're going to sing together. We're, you're going to walk away just going, I'm glad I went. And those are the type of events I always want to be a part of.
It's kind of like, it reminds me, it's more than a concert. It's like an event. You know how Carol Burnett show has these little different types of things?
Yeah.
It's like the Christmas Carol Burnett show.
And
I know Leanne's going to be making a debut. We've got some really fun things. Alaska's joining us this year, and it's just going to be such a variety. And I'll never forget, I talked to this one guy, and he goes, last year, he goes, I didn't want to come to this show. My wife dragged me. I thought it was just going to be a dude on the stage playing a saxophone. And Grady's just like, thanks. And he goes, it's so much more. He goes, I love the saxophone, but it's so much more, and I can't wait to go every year. So it's really going to be an amazing show. So mark your calendars. And the really cool thing, the ticket sales go to benefit Lisa Bain Ministries and help us with care boxes. This is the busiest time of year for us. A lot of broken people walking through broken places, and this helps us meet those needs in our local community. So I'm so thankful for that. So, okay, as we wind down, what's one last who's your favorite group?
Oh gosh, can't ask me that.
We got to end on that.
Favorite group of all time,
who's your favorite group of all time?
Okay,
and we got to end. Yeah.
So does this have to be Christian or
no? Two of mine aren't.
Okay. Well, Tears for Fears.
I was going to Tears for Fears.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite band of all time. I love everything they've ever done. And they're old guys now. They're in their 70s.
Everybody wants to
rule the world. Yeah. I think one of the best pop songs ever written. And it's not about love. It's not about relationships. It's not about a relationship. That's their music to me it transcended all, the treacly things about love and relationship. It was really interesting. But they're in their late 70s now, or mid 70s, still making great music.
Yeah,
and putting on
saw one with his
shows.
daughter or something.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. So them, I got to go back to the old school Imperials with Russ.
Russ Taff was one of mine.
And Jim Murray, Dave Will, Armin Morales. That group was formative to me. Their One More Song for You record and Priority record were transformative to me. And of course, getting to meet Michael Omartian, their producer,
he's so good.
And then work with him for years on producing records was it's just a dream come true for me. So that would be a group. Another group, oh wow, I don't know.
Kenny Loggins.
Well, he's not a group, though.
Foreigner?
Foreigner's cool. My wife loves Foreigner.
See, I love Foreigner.
A little more
Foreigner's
than I
like-
do, but I
like
respect
Foreigner,
what they do.
and if you like Foreigner,
Yeah, well,
you might like the show this
Lou
year.
Gramm, their lead singer, is one of the great
Gramm is
vocalists
so
of all
good.
time.
Yeah.
He's awesome. So Foreigner's great. Oh, and Toto.
I love
always,
Toto.
Yeah,
and I love Foreigner and Boston and Styx. Tommy Shaw. I love Tommy
my
Shaw.
gosh.
Tommy Shaw is like Tommy Shaw.
Okay, so I got to go back to Toto.
Okay.
I had a really cool interaction with their lead guitarist, Steve Lukather,
Okay.
years ago. I got invited to a James Burton guitar festival. And if you don't know who James Burton is, he was Elvis's guitar player forever. And now he lives in Monroe, Louisiana, or Shreveport, one of the two. And he when he was able, he did a guitar festival every year. And every year he would bring in a Christian artist. Well, this year it happened to be me. I came in, sang an Elvis song, sang a couple of my songs. And we, one of the songs they wanted us to do was Where There's Faith. Had
Yeah.
a killer band back there, a lot of Christian
Wow.
guys that were friends of mine. And so when I got there for sound check the night before the event, Lukather and his band were there. Not Toto, but Lukather is a solo artist, and his band were there as a featured artist. And they kept me out. Like, they're like, no, Mr. Lukather's in there sound checking. You have to stay outside until he's done.
Yeah.
So he leaves. They invite me in. I'm the last one to sound check that night. So I get up there, and the first song that we sound check is Where There's Faith.
Wow.
So we're doing it in this empty auditorium, and I see, once the song is about over, the back door open, and in walks Steve Lukather. And he walks up, sits down on the front row like this as we finish the song, and we're just like, of course, I'm starstruck. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening here. And Steve goes, who are you again? And I told him who I was, and he goes, I just got to tell you, I've never heard a song like that in my life. He's like, that's
Wow.
really, really cool. And he said, can I get up and jam with you guys?
Oh my goodness.
So for the rest of my sound check, for the next 30 minutes, Lukather gets up, brings his guitar, jumps up on stage and jams with us. And then I've got pictures of us all afterwards, all hanging out with each other.
Wow.
And so I've heard from sources that, he's definitely had the gospel preached to him. I don't know where he is in his spiritual life, but I know that was a seed planted in his life many years ago that I know God brought him back in. He didn't let him get out of earshot
Yeah.
before he heard Where There's Faith, and turned around and walked in and went, something different about
that
that.
is so cool.
I want to know more about
Andy,
this.
that is a great story.
So,
that is a great
anyway.
story to end on. And we end every episode in prayer.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to end us in prayer.
Sure. What do you want to pray about?
You know what? I just feel like as you were talking, there's a lot of people that are interested in wanting to be praise and worship leaders
Mm-hmm.
or wanting to go into this avenue or feeling like, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
Or they might not even have the support of their parents.
Right. Right.
You just go for it.
I will just say this: if that is you, if you feel like you have a gift for music, if you have a gift, a calling of ministry, you just kind of feel that spark or that
Mm-hmm.
nudge on the inside of you, that's probably there. I'm going to guess that's God put that there. And there's always a journey. You just have to take the first step. You have to just go out in faith, and you have to do your part. You have to maximize that gift. You have to look for opportunities to use that gift. You have to look for people to push you in that gift. And it just takes one time. Just go do it. And so let me pray. Let me pray for you, those specifically that have that right now in your life. Father, I just thank you for my journey. I thank you for the people that you've put in my life to encourage me, to call me out, to walk alongside me, to give me places to sing and play my music over the years. But I know that you led me into that, and I know that you gave me the desire to take those steps. So whoever is watching, listening to this right now, that feels the call of ministry and music on their life, I just pray that you would give them an opportunity, that you would send someone to affirm them, confirm them, and give them a place to use their gift. Father, we don't typically in this life, and I see this in your word as well, just accomplish everything on our own. That you will send people to encourage us and give us opportunities. So I pray that right now for anyone watching this, listening to this, that wants to take that next step and doesn't know how. Father, I pray they would just reach out to you and say, Father, you lead me. You take me where I'm supposed to go. And then we just believe that you're going to answer that prayer and fulfill the purpose that you have in each one of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I am so honored. This is a highlight. This is a highlight of my life, having you here.
You're so kind.
Everyone knows how much I think of you, and I'm just
So
honored.
kind.
Thank you for being here with me.
I loved it.
And you guys, thank you for joining me every month. And make sure you go to lisabain.com if you want to catch up on some of the past episodes. Go to YouTube, ding the little bell, and join us next week. And thank you so much for just being here and supporting us like you do. We love you guys, and we hope you have a good month. Thank you for joining us at Treasure Talks. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with the latest videos. You will not want to miss out. If you'd like more information on the growing projects of Lisa Bain Ministries and how we're helping the community, please visit us at lisabain.com.